Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of TBR. I'm George Binns, and this evening we're going to talk a little bit about getting some help for substance abuse. And to help us understand it a little better, we have Rebecca Jackson, the Director of Community Programs for the YMCA, and Samuel Ted Lane, the Beverly Police Department's Community Impact Officer. Welcome to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. So as we've been discussing before the show, what is the YMCA involved in? What are these community programs?
Absolutely. So I think the biggest program that we have at the Beverly YMCA around substance use and substance use prevention is the Be Healthy Beverly Coalition. The Be Healthy Beverly Coalition is made up of a number of different community organizations and entities that really have a vested interest in working with our youth and providing a safe and healthy environment for them, and also the skills that they need as they grow up. So that coalition is focused on substance use prevention, as I mentioned, and we're primarily focused on tobacco, marijuana, and alcohol. And like I said, that's a big partnership with several agencies and different individuals in the community, providing education, trying to build skills for those who are already working with youth, and looking at potentially changing some policies to really help protect around substance use prevention.
Well, how would somebody contact somebody in the business to get something started with the Y?
Absolutely. So you can always reach out to us at the Be Healthy Beverly Coalition. You can check us out on Facebook or on Instagram under Be Healthy Beverly. Otherwise, you can always reach out to me personally at jacksonr@northshoreymca.org. And like I said, I think the biggest thing that the YMCA does is that we help to facilitate partnerships and conversations, because we have so many different individuals in the community who are doing really wonderful work, and it's all about supporting the work that they're doing and making sure that everybody is able to connect appropriately.
Well, I think that gets to be one of the major problems, that there are so many different organizations involved, and somebody that's got a problem with substance abuse, they've got so many other things on their mind. How do they weave their way through this morass, if you will, of different organizations and find the right one? Is that what you do at the Y? Or
not exactly, but I help to try to connect folks. So if it comes to, for example, youth who are in the Beverly School District, as well as a number of other school districts on the North Shore, the YMCA, in partnership with JRI and the North Shore Education Consortium, runs the PASS program, which is Positive Alternatives for Student Support. And a number of our students are sent to PASS for substance use reasons. And within the PASS program, we do actually provide a lot of help. They meet with a clinician. We provide support in terms of access to additional services. So that sort of general navigation that can be very challenging for families, especially around insurance and trying to find a provider and dealing with wait lists. But outside of the PASS program, really at Be Healthy Beverly, what we like to do is try to connect folks with our community partners who are doing this navigation work. So for example, with the police department or other agencies that serve individuals with substance use disorder. So we can certainly be a conduit to individuals who have sort of a broader breadth of access in terms of information on where to go, how to manage those insurance issues, how to potentially manage those wait lists.
Yeah. So how does the community impact officer get involved in these situations?
A lot of the stuff that we do is not on the prevention side, so being partnered with Be Healthy Beverly is new to us, and it's very helpful, and I think we've had some great partnerships and been able to do things. We tend to be more on the follow-up side and kind of after an incident occurs. So if someone has an overdose or substance use disorder, I work directly with a licensed clinician, and we go and I work with recovery coaches and harm reduction coaches, and we have a pretty good group together and a lot of resources, so we can help someone navigate. Someone that's maybe ready for recovery or wants to get into a program, we can help facilitate that. If they're not quite ready for recovery at that point, we can work with the harm reduction coaches to try and keep them safe until they are ready for recovery.
So tell me again what this home reduction coach is?
So the harm reduction coaches, we go out with them. one stop out of Lynn and Healthy Streets out of Beverly, out of Gloucester, and I may have those flipped around backwards, and I apologize. But we work with them to just go out and we do clean needles, Narcan, fentanyl test strips, just trying to keep someone who's not quite ready to enter into a program, just trying to keep them healthy and keep them safe. And then we work with the recovery coaches out of Essex County Outreach. And today, usually on Wednesdays, we would go out and I work with the recovery coach and we do follow-up on any overdoses that have occurred. And we have it can be substance use disorders or it could be alcohol use disorders. We do a combination of both. And those recovery coaches have lived experience. They're in long-term recovery themselves. Yeah. And I don't wear this uniform. I wear plain clothes and, nicely knock on a door and not the police knock. And people open up their doors to us and they want the help. And then if they're ready, we can often facilitate them to get into a program pretty quickly. We have worked with some great partners through PARI and through, we have a hub meeting which is organized by our clinician. We have the jail diversion clinician is embedded directly into our police department. And I work with her, Lisa, daily, and she has connections with different programs like RCA and Charles River detox facilities, and sometimes if that person's ready, we make a lot of phone calls, and like Rebecca said, sometimes you're chasing insurance companies and trying to find. It's not easy to get a bed these days, but if someone's ready, we do everything that we can to try and get them into a place as quickly as possible.
Well, how does a person go from having a problem to being ready to? What kind of a transition does?
It can be tough. It can be tough. It can be someone who might have had several overdoses. We have a pretty good system, a database that keeps track of all substance use overdoses and alcohol overdose or incidences, at-risk behavioral incidents, and we keep that all in a database that's operated by Essex County Outreach. And we do the follow-up with them, and the first time we go to follow up with them, they may not want to have anything to do with us. And then the next time we go to follow up with them, they might be a little bit more open. And then maybe they relapse a little bit and have another overdose. And now things are starting to think, okay, I need to get this taken care of.
I can imagine there's a lot of denial.
Yes.
It ain't going to happen again. That was a one-time deal. And then they have several one-time deals in a row. And all of a sudden you end up in a problem. And we had a discussion I think a couple of years ago with some of the people on the community programs. And one of the issues was when you go out for one of these incidents, do you have a social worker with you? Has anything changed in that regime, or is it still police only?
The initial incident of the actual overdose, it would probably be just police, fire, EMS for the treatment. But the follow-up part is usually myself, a recovery coach, and often our clinician will come with us when she's available. And to have the three working together.
That's Rebecca.
That's Lisa. Yeah.
Lisa, okay.
So Lisa is able, she's been in the system for a long time and has many, many connections, and it's nice to be able to make a few phone calls, and so if someone's ready to get into a program.
Yeah, I think back to the discussion we had with her. I think that was where the point came up of get a social worker involved a lot quicker, get them involved in these kind of programs as opposed to lock them up for another week. Kind of thing, because
absolutely,
you can dry them out, but you don't take away the problem of the demand, and that seems to be one of the fundamental issues behind everything. And I've had this discussion with somebody at the Y. The Y is a great place to find people to talk with. Yes. Actually, sometimes I even get some other exercise besides tooth and jaw gymnastics. That's another story, but. As long as somebody has a demand and is willing to pay for it, there's somebody out there that's going to make a buck delivering. And I think this is your fundamental problem is cut off the deliveries and somebody else comes out of the woodwork and takes over the territory. So what's the level of problem in Beverly? Is it a problem, or what kind of an issue is it?
It's definitely a problem. I don't think it's a major problem. I would say I keep track of all the overdoses, and we go through waves. We'll have several in a week, and then we won't have any for a couple weeks. But it's a pretty consistent baseline. It's not. I haven't seen it spiking up or anything with the overdoses. And then we're between some other busier cities, between Gloucester and Lynn and Salem and everything.
Yeah.
So there is a lot going back and forth between Beverly.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that we don't have a problem at all, but we definitely are maybe lucky compared to some of the surrounding cities that our overdoses are much less than some of the areas around us.
Well, I think part of the problem with being in this, in between Gloucester and Lynn and Salem and all the rest is somebody has a need, they know where to go to get it.
Oh, yes.
And I think there was an article in the Salem News a while back about a police officer who noticed his car was parked, flashing his taillights, stepping on the brake to flash the lights. And goes over and find out what's going on. And all of a sudden the guy's trying to swallow little black balloons. And it's around, and it's I think it's naive to say that, oh, it's not here.
Right. Yeah.
We have concerns, and I think everybody does. And one of the issues that popped up when I was thinking about this discussion was there are some medications that are available to minimize the desire, and they're getting to be hard to come by because I don't know whether it's just we can't get the supply or there's too much demand for the Narcan and the other drugs that try to minimize the effects.
Narcan has become pretty readily available. You can get it over the counter at most pharmacies. There's a lot of programs. We hand it out on our follow-ups if people need it. Even at the scene, if we have an overdose, and a lot of times family members are coming up to us and saying, hey, can you leave some of that with us in case we need it in the future? Yeah. And we're able to do that now through some grants and programs. Before we couldn't do it because we got our Narcan from Beverly Hospital and we couldn't administer or leave that, but now we're able to. And the big thing that I stress with people is if they do have Narcan and they administer it to somebody, that they still need to call 911, that they still need to be followed up and observed at a hospital. And the other good thing is that they can't get in trouble. A lot of people don't realize this, but if you're calling 911 to get help for someone in an overdose situation, they cannot be arrested for possession of the narcotics or anything. Any needles are certainly not illegal. If they were trafficking large amounts of heroin, then yes, there's still issues with that. But people need to know that it's safe to call us, that we're not going to arrest them or their family members or anything. We're really working more towards the treatment and the recovery part of it, especially if someone is in an overdose emergency situation.
And with Be Healthy Beverly, we've partnered with the police department as well as with several neighboring communities on a campaign called Be a Lifeline Carry Narcan. And we're really fortunate that we have also been able to partner with the police department to do some community Narcan training. So recently we did a training at the YMCA that was open to the general community in Beverly and beyond in terms of learning how to use Narcan, and we were actually able to hand out Narcan during that training as well for any community members who were interested.
It's like the old CPR training.
Exactly.
That essentially, you never know when you're going to come across somebody who's got a need, and you got to know what to be able to do. And I remember back in the days of Boy Scouts, we had training of what to do if somebody needs help, and they don't do that anymore. But, I mean, the processes that have been developed keep changing. And I guess you have to keep having new courses and new programs to update people on what's the right thing to do when you find somebody or when somebody is having a problem.
If you have Narcan and you're comfortable or been trained to administer it, you certainly can't hurt, because Narcan, even if you're wrong and it's not a narcotic overdose, Narcan can't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
But the most important thing is, even if you do administer it and it works and it wakes somebody up, that they still should call 911. they still need to be observed for a little while at a hospital, and we don't even bring them, if we revive someone with Narcan, you can put them in protective custody if they refuse to go to the hospital. We don't bring them to the police station because that's not a safe environment for someone who could possibly re-overdose.
Yeah.
It's possible that the Narcan can wear off and the narcotics in their
Well,
system could take
that's
effect.
exactly the point. You don't know how big a dose they got.
Exactly, or what they took and,
And
how
then
long.
maybe the Narcan will knock it down for a few minutes, and they walk off, and wow,
Exactly.
yeah.
And from a prevention standpoint, I think it's also really important to remember that Narcan isn't only for, heroin, for example, but there's also a lot of prescription medications that are opioids as well. And so, for example, if you are prescribed a medication from your doctor for a procedure, for whatever need, it's really important to be able to store those medications safely and then also dispose of them in a safe way. So we partner with the police department and the health department for drug take-back days, which happen twice a year. And it's a great way to dispose of those medications. The police department also has a 24/7 lockbox where you can drop off different medications as well as sharps, needles as well.
Well, I think that gets into another issue of exactly what is a narcotic. And I've had a couple of operations where they've loaded me up with stuff that I never heard of this before, and it's supposedly a painkiller, and most likely it is some kind of a narcotic. So I think what you're pointing out is there's a lot of different opportunities or risks that somebody says, oh, geez, the pain in my leg is still bad. It's not worth. I'll take another pill. And next thing you know, they're one of your customers.
Yes. Yeah. So that's what we're dealing with a lot right now with the big pharmaceuticals and the lawsuits against them because they realize that that's what they were causing for a long time. So there's now a big push to not give narcotics, use other type of pain management, either non-steroidal anti-inflammatories and Tylenol and stuff when you go to the hospital. And that we could run into that a little bit too, where people are going to the hospital and they want their pain meds and the hospital's not giving them their pain meds because they're trying to prevent further misuse. And so then they get upset.
That was part of the problem in Ohio, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, West Virginia, that area where people would go to a doctor's office and get a script for 250 pills, sell half of them so they could afford to pay the $250 or what it was to get the script in the first place. And it got to be a rolling business. And I guess a lot of the pharmaceutical companies got caught. Hey, guys, it's good stuff, but it ain't that good, kind of thing.
And some people who just had either an accident or some type of a surgery and they're on their pain medications and then eventually they're weaned off of it and the doctors stop it and they still are addicted to it and they look for it elsewhere. And that's when they end up taking it from, street, and then you don't know what you're getting. And that's probably one of the main reasons we see a lot of the waves and the overdoses is a lot of the stuff that we're seeing is pressed pills coming out of Mexico. So they're making fentanyl in a lab. No one's growing poppies and making heroin anymore. Heroin pretty much doesn't exist. It's mostly fentanyl made in a lab and then pressed into a pill, but there's no quality assurance. No one's testing those pills to know exactly how much fentanyl is in each one. So we'll see little waves where we'll have a bunch of overdoses in a week, and it's probably a stronger batch that's going around. People are used to taking a certain amount, and then we'll have a little, then it'll settle down for a little bit. We won't have any for a week or two, and then we'll see another little spike. So kind of see the bumps here and there.
I think one of the other things that I know I've personally experienced, I've had several joints replaced, and I was surprised that it wasn't painful. And I was asking the surgeon about it, and he says, one of the things they do nowadays when they cut you open is before they close you up, they put in a long-lasting lidocaine or Novocaine kind of stuff, and never felt a thing. And it's hardly any need at all for something stronger. And I think I was on Toradol for one time, and it just upset my stomach. Just stopped taking it. Didn't make any difference. So I think there's a lot of progress being made in how do you prevent the need to go on something stronger for a long period of time. So there's a lot of ingredients, I think, in trying to keep this problem under control. And one of the other issues is, again, there's lots of reasons to think you need some chemical support. And again, back to the point, unless we can do something about demand, there's going to be somebody making a buck providing. And I guess that's where the why comes in. Is part of the program is how do you get people into a situation where they don't have that kind of demand for some sort of chemical support.
So a lot of what we do at the YMCA is focused around positive youth development. So instead of sort of focusing on the issue, we focus on building protective factors for our youth, for our communities. So positive youth development really is about building a self of identity, a belief in the future, self-efficacy, and self-regulation for our youth. And that really can help them with their sort of skills around, social skills and behavioral skills, and, social emotional skills as well, too. And so that's really a big part of what we do at the YMCA. And you see that with a number of our different youth programs, with our camps, all of the above. But then also at Be Healthy Beverly, we have a youth coalition, which is focused on building community connection and opportunities for our middle and high school students. So most recently, we had North Shore Teen send-off event at the McPherson Youth Center, and at the event we had mental health first aid kits, so kids could put sort of little bags together to build different supports that they could use when maybe they're having a hard time. But I think most importantly, it was an opportunity for our youth from different communities to come together in a safe environment, to meet each other, to build connections, not only with their peers, but also with trusted adults, and to really help promote the McPherson Youth Center as well, which has some wonderful staff there and is a safe environment for our kids to hang out as well. So like I said, it's really focusing on the positive that we can bring, and building those protective factors really is a great defense when it comes to preventing substance use as well.
Well, that all kind of sounds good. And so how do you get somebody to want to get into that kind of a program? Because I can't imagine when I was, 12, 13, 14, somebody saying, hey, we're going to teach you how to have a good life. Huh? I'd rather go play baseball or something like that. And yeah, it sounds good, but there's got to be some mechanism to get them to show up at the McPherson Center or to show up at the Y.
But, also showing up and playing baseball is also a great protective factor, right? And so I think that what is important for us to remember is that whatever that protective factor is, it's going to look different for different kids. It's going to look different for different families. And it's going to be based off of what their own interests are, what their own needs are, what their family dynamic is, what their community dynamic is, sort of what resources they have available to them. So if they have a great connection with their baseball team and their baseball coach, that is a wonderful protective factor because they're connected to the community in a meaningful way, right? And so we are just trying to provide an additional opportunity for youth to connect, right? So for some, it's the McPherson Youth Center because they're able to walk there after middle school or after high school. We have free food Fridays, and it's a way for them to have some food and to meet people and hang out. And like I said, it's a safe environment. But maybe not everybody wants to go to the McPherson Youth Center. Maybe they want to go to the YMCA and hang out and, work out. Or maybe they want to go to basketball. Maybe they want to do art activities. The Cabot, for example, has a wonderful film program. There's amazing opportunities available in the community, and the YMCA is definitely a part of that fabric. But it's really trying to meet them where they are. And when it comes to our coalition, we don't approach it as we're going to teach you how to, grow up and live your life. It's really youth-led. So our first meeting every single year, we ask the kids, we say, what do you want out of this group? What makes it hardest to be a teen today? Mm-hmm. And a lot of the feedback that we get is, there's maybe anxiety, but there's a lot of competing demands on their time. They just want to be able to enjoy their youth, right? And so we build the programming based off of what they're interested in and what would be most helpful for them.
Well, you were going to say.
We've been lucky to partner with you guys too, because from the police side, it's hard for us to do prevention. Like I said, we're more of a follow-up type thing.
Yeah.
So being able to work with Rebecca and the Be Healthy Beverly and one of the other officers and I went to a training down in DC, the CADCA conference, and just learning about it, being there with the kids and seeing it. It's great. And I think that's where the prevention is going to start. We've got to start with our youngest ones, and hopefully that will grow, because I've been, like I was saying, that I've been a police officer for a long time and a paramedic for a very long time, and we've always done the follow-up. We go there and we give the Narcan, and then until the next time or something like that. So prevention and working with the youth, I think, is definitely the way to go. And we're lucky to be in my role at the police department to be part of that and be more on the prevention side of it. So I love that relationship that we have. It's great.
Yeah. And we know Be Healthy Beverly can't be there, can't be everything for everyone, right?
Oh,
but we definitely tried to provide sort of general support, education, not only for our youth, but for our families in terms of having conversations, training opportunities, for example, like that CADCA conference. We've also provided mental health first aid training for different community members that are working with youth, for example, the Narcan training. And then we're also looking at very much trying to reduce access and increase barriers in terms of delaying that first onset, that first use of a substance as well, too.
Yeah, I guess that's part of the problem, too. I think that it's touted to be, oh, it's a great experience. You got to try it. And, if you get a light dose, it might not be too bad. But if you get the wrong dose, like you said, you don't know what kind of a pill you got.
Exactly.
That first try could be devastating.
Absolutely.
And I think that's part of the message that has to get across. You have no idea what they're feeding you.
Absolutely.
And
they make the pills, they try and make them look like real morphine pills or codeine pills, and they're stamped, and so when they send them from Mexico, someone might think they're getting a real controlled dose, but they don't know what they're getting.
yeah. So I think there's so many traps in the system that it's awful hard to weave your way through without stepping in one of them, I guess. And I guess the data shows that some people do get caught, and they need help. And it's good that you've got a program going to at least try to address it. And I think the other half of the game that you mentioned earlier on is it's not just the particular individual, it's the family around him.
Absolutely.
And unless the family gets involved, it's me against the world, and it's a tough fight. And so it gets reduced to that.
A lot of times with our follow-ups, we'll see the family members first. If we go to do a follow-up and the client isn't home, the family members want to talk to us, and they want all the information, and they can get the conversation started, so that if the client themselves isn't quite ready, the family's working on it, and then maybe the next time they are more, the client's more willing to work with us. And we have a good group of people that we pulled together through the YMCA and with the police department and the clinicians and all of that stuff, and the different resources, outreach, and everything. And it's a good group. I think we're making strides to go in the right direction.
Okay. It's good. Well, we've hit our 30 minutes and had fun. And it's good that you're available to be a resource to get started into this. And that's the thing. You got to get started someplace, and it's good that you're available to do that. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for joining us this evening. And if you have any questions or comments, and you'll notice at the end of the credits is my email address. Send me an email. And if you got some point to present, there's always room for you here at the table. And thanks again.